All right, for the ninth millionth time. The First Amendment says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peacefully assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances. And that also means that the government can't ask a private company to do the same. And that should be common knowledge. Common Knowledge Podcast, just a man doing the best he can with what he got. So ABC has pulled Jimmy Kimmel's show from the air after he made jokes following the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Let's listen to what Jimmy Kimmel said in full.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
Let me just point out that this Jimmy Kimmel suspension is a problem, but probably not for the reasons you're thinking. So let me just lay out why this is problematic. And for those of y'all who don't know, I've studied broadcast journalism at the University of Tennessee at Martin. And one of the first things they taught me was the First Amendment and what it protects. And more importantly, what it doesn't protect. And when you learn that, you learn quickly that most Americans have no idea what the First Amendment says or is. The First Amendment protects 5 things: freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom to protest, freedom to petition the government, and the last one everybody seems to always get wrong: freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, and I've been consistent on this. Like, go back and look at all my podcasts. I've been consistent because this is the right answer. Freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences. Your words are actions, and you're accountable for your actions. So if ABC, which is owned by Disney, wants to fire Jimmy Kimmel, they can. Now go back and listen to the podcast I did when the Mandalorian star Gina Carrera was fired. I said the exact same thing I'm saying now. What you say outside of your work can get you fired from your job. A private company can try to fire you for almost any reason. And if you disagree, you got recourse. You can go to the courts and file a wrongful termination suit and handle it there. But the First Amendment only protects you against the government. But a lot of you free speech warriors actually think that the First Amendment protects you from anything you say, and it means you can say anything without any recourse, and that's not how it works. The First Amendment only protects you against the government censoring your speech, and this is the problem with the Jimmy Kimmel suspension / firing. The head of the FCC, Brandon Carr, suggested that ABC, Disney, and the local affiliates could face regulatory consequences for Kimmel's remark and possibly get their license revoked for spreading what he described as misinformation. And let me be clear, there was no misinformation in that Kimmel joke. As of now, there has been no definitive evidence linking Charlie Kirk's shooter to any left-leaning groups. He said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. And after this, Disney, the owner of NBC, pulled Jimmy Kimmel's show. And then President Trump asked NBC to cancel Jimmy Fallon's and Seth Meyers' program. An overstep of government. This is government censorship. The head of the FCC threatened to revoke licenses all over what a late night comedian said on his show. If that's not an overstep of government, I don't know what is. That is the FCC coercing a private company to do something on behalf of the government because they don't like it. And this isn't the first time that Disney has done this. Like, Disney also paid $15 million to Trump's presidential library to settle a lawsuit. A lawsuit that Trump filed over remarks that the anchor George Stephanopoulos made involving the sex abuse claims against him by E. Jean Carroll. This is a scare tactic to all the media. This man is putting his thumb on the neck of media. He is silencing anybody who disagrees with him. That is President Trump saying, hey, I don't like what you're saying about me. Make it stop. That is the definition of government censorship, and that is what the First Amendment protects against. So this is a First Amendment violation. Like, one of the things that makes America is the freedom of speech. It's the fact that we have a free press that can criticize the government. We can ask the government questions. We can dig in, we can FOIA, we can actually hold the government accountable. And one of those mechanisms we use to hold the government accountable is freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is important. Making jokes is important. That's the reason why we had the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We use satire all the time to make political points. It's why we have political comedy. But if you have government censorship and the US government can go after their enemies, and anybody they deem to have done them wrong and label it misinformation, then we don't have America no more. This is not America. This is basically, y'all get tired of me saying this, but this is basically Nazi Germany, where you can't say anything bad about the government out of fear they're going to come get you. It's not America anymore. One of our gifts in America that doesn't hit the same in other countries is our sarcasm. Like, seriously, sarcasm and humor. We use it all the time in casual conversation in America. And when you go to a country like Japan, man, it's not really there. Everything is kind of straightforward. You don't joke or try to point out why you're mad by using sarcasm or humor in Japan. You just don't, it doesn't hit the same. But that's one thing people from outside the country will come to America and say, man, I love the way you guys speak. It's annoying, it's rude, but I love that you guys have the confidence to say what you're thinking and say how you feel. What's happening now is the government actually quashing that and saying, hey, man, you can't determine what is on your local network unless we like it. And you heard the comments. I played the whole thing in context so nobody can get it misconstrued. You heard what Jimmy Kimmel said. He did not threaten the government. He did not threaten President Trump. He just made some factual statements. So there's no way slander can be involved here. They just didn't like what the man said, and they wanted him pulled off, and they muscled private companies to do it, and everybody should be afraid of that. Because this is basically the canary in the coal mine for middle white America. Because to be honest, man, black people and people of color have always known this about the government, about government censorship. We're often told to shut up. Oh, we don't like what you got to say, so shut the hell up. Same thing with our gay and trans brothers and sisters. They're often told to shut the hell up. And that's why we've been pushing back a lot from this administration, because we tried to warn y'all before this even happened. This is a possibility. And we saw this coming here. We saw this. Now, It's up to the people who voted this man in to get him out and to realize that. And that's the problem. Trying to get people right now who are in the coat of Trump to realize that they have been duped is like pulling teeth. I truly believe that the uprising should have happened already. The man has hit you guys with tariffs. He has taken away your workforce because he told you that all of them was quote unquote illegal, is now taking away the freedom of speech. And is not gonna stop with Jimmy Kimmel. He's gonna go farther. It's gonna get to a point, man, that he may start screening your social media accounts. He may look at what you say on social media and deem that to be misinformation or slander against him. And if he doesn't like it, the government doesn't like it, maybe they can come down on you. After the death of Charlie Kirk, it was weird because all the points that the right made during George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, and the death of those white men up north by the hands of Kyle Rittenhouse, when they made stupid, racist, incendiary comments, they got fired. And the right's comments was, how dare those folks get fired? That was freedom of speech. And now they are trying to fire people who say exactly what Charlie Kirk said, by the way. They're trying to fire you for quoting Charlie Kirk. You can't even quote Charlie Kirk's own words on social media without some right-wing lunatic trying to find out where you work at and get you fired, which led to a lot of people, friendly and other, going to my podcast page, going to my Facebook page, going to my Instagram page, and sending me warnings that, hey, maybe you shouldn't say anything anymore because people are losing their jobs. A lot of people are losing their job over making comments on social media about Charlie Kirk. It led to right-wing lunatics asking me, where do you work at? I bet you won't tell me where you work at. All in hopes of getting me fired. And let me say this. I've been doing this podcast now for 3 years. And the reason why I do this podcast is because I'm a broadcast journalism major and I truly believe in the First Amendment. Call it cheesy, but I honestly believe in the rights we are afforded in America. And the reason why I get so mad and I get so worked up about these things is because I believe my country, which is home, can do better. Seriously, when I was in Japan and somebody talks bad about America, man, that jingoism pops up. I'm like, yo, you got to calm down, buddy. Like, yeah, I know we got our problems, but you ain't going to talk about home. I'll talk about home. That's why I get so upset, because I truly believe we can do better. And we got to hold ourselves accountable. And we have to believe in these principles we say we believe in. So for 3 years, I've been doing this podcast. And I speak my mind openly, what I think I say. And I'd be good goddamn if I let anybody scare me out of speaking my mind. I'm going to say what I want on this podcast if I believe it's true. Because this is a form of media. This is protected under the First Amendment. And my question to anybody listening to the sound of my voice who was trying to get me fired or was trying to warn me not to say what I said about Charlie Kirk out of fear of me getting fired, my question is, when did we become pansies in America? Like, let me know, when did we become pansies? Because we talk about being all strong Americans, stand up for what is right. We're going to do what needs to be done, even when it's hard. We don't back down. These colors don't run, and you suckers are running. The first sign of fear, y'all are cowering, acting like little punk bitches. Marcus, don't say nothing about Charlie Cook. They gonna find you and they gonna get you fired. And then you right-wing losers. I'm gonna find out where you work at to get you fired. How dare you say something about Charlie Kirk, even though we talked about George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, and every other black person who was unarmed dying. Told them they didn't do nothing. Sandra Bland, we talked about them. Didn't do nothing was a whole thing, but no, don't you dare say nothing about Charlie Kirk. We gonna get you fired. Everybody is soft as fuck. And look, somebody gotta stand on these principles. Somebody gotta actually believe this shit. And I'll say this, man, my words, I am accountable for my words. And if you have a right to not like what I say, and you have a right to try to get me fired, you do. And my company has a right to fire me. You find out where I work at, and you lobby them to fire me, and they want to fire me, cool. I guess I gotta go to court and try to get my job back. But these rights we have only matter if we make them matter. A lot of y'all are just comfortable getting your little $25 to $35 an hour, shutting the hell up and not saying anything. Honestly, I thought the uprising would have happened a long time ago. If you allowing these folks to scare you right now for saying what you think, what's going to happen when it's election time and the election ads come out and you disagree with this administration and you want a different change? What happens when they start putting pressure on you then saying, hey man, you can't say that because that's disrespectful to the administration? What happens then? What happens when they make it illegal to protest? What happens when they say you cannot gather as a group? That's illegal. Unless you're part of the January 6th rioters. What happens then? It all falls apart. You guys don't stand up for what you claim to believe in and all these things that really make America great. You don't stand up for them. When faced with the challenges to what really makes America great, and when you have to actually stand on this, a lot of y'all buckle up and you're just comfortable doing nothing because you don't want to mess up your money. But me personally, honestly, how can I look my son or my wife in the face if I just curl up in a ball and not say anything? Because this is how it starts, guys. It starts by them making you afraid to say anything. Anything you dislike. Anything you think is wrong. If you have no more redress, if you can't petition the government, if they got you afraid to say anything, essentially you don't have a democracy anymore. They like to say democracy dies in dark. No. It dies in the dead of day, in the daylight, to applause. All because you're in your feelings and you can't look to the future. All because of right now, you right-wing people want to own the libs. You're willing to kill democracy. Let me give you a list of things Trump has said himself. He said, execute the Central Park 5. Rough them up. I'll pay your bail. Knock the crap out of them. I'll pay your legal fees. I'd like to punch them in the face. Stand back and stand by to the Proud Boys. Y'all was willing to let that go under the guise of freedom of speech. But all of a sudden, a comedian on a late night show makes a joke and y'all can't let that stand. Because for some reason, it appears that comedian has more weight and should be held to a higher standard than the President of the United States of America. And what this means is it's over for linear TV. It's over. Like, this is the death of linear TV. Because at its core, this was all about money. It costs a lot to make these late night television shows. Man, to be honest, it costs a lot to make a lot of these programs. Like, these companies are losing money and they're looking for ways to cut and trim the fat. And to be honest, man, they probably would have got rid of Jimmy Kimmel at some point in time to try to save money because all of these networks are consolidating because they don't have no money. They're going broke. They can't compete with your YouTubes and your TikToks and your Instagrams because that's where all the young viewers are at now. Everybody are on those platforms. They rather watch Netflix or Hulu or Disney Plus than linear TV. It's a dinosaur. Most of these companies are bending over backwards to Trump because they're consolidating, and they're consolidating because there's no more money there. All the money now is in the internet. And this is why nobody trusts mainstream media right now, because they're too easily influenced. Now, you still have that problem on the internet with ads and ad-supported models, but that's why I'm building my own news network. And it's going to be a lot more people to follow to say, hey, man, I'm okay. I'm cool with this. NBC, ABC, CNN. If you guys are going to be coerced by the FCC, I'll just take my content to the internet. Now, what you really got to worry about is when the government says, hey, we're going to start regulating the internet and you can't put nothing on there. Net neutrality goes out the window. That's when you really need to start worrying. But it's over for linear TV and network television, right? This is like the last gasp. They got to consolidate, bring all these companies together to get any semblance of money, because the average viewer of broadcast television is 50 plus years old. They're not hitting the target age group. That's why Disney is pivoting to young people. Like when y'all thought Disney was quote unquote going woke, which can mean anything depending on who you ask. But if you go by the far right definition of woke, it was going woke because Disney didn't have any viewers. All the Disney viewers were old people. So they had to try to appeal to younger people. And because of this, now Disney's going to lose a lot of subscribers. Like a lot of people are pulling away from Disney because of this. As you should, because once again, in a capitalist society, you hold a company to account with your dollars. And this was really all about dollars on Disney and Sinclair Broadcasting's end. They're trying to buy up a lot of broadcasting companies. They're already on over 39%, which means by law, they need an exception from the FCC. In order to get that right now, they're kissing Trump's ass. And that's still a violation of the First Amendment because the government is applying pressure on these companies in order to get what they want. Why are you people not mad at that? That's what you should be mad at. Yes.